Hello everyone and welcome to Nerdy Boys Reviews. We're your hosts. I'm Nerdy Boy Christian.
And I'm Nerdy Boy Scott.
And this is Nerdy Boys Reviews, your nerdcast where we talk about the latest and greatest in nerdy news, movies, and television. We tell you what it all means and why you should be excited about it. So, explicit content warning, material on this podcast may not be suitable for all listeners of all ages, so you have been warned. What's up, dude?
What's up?
How are you?
I'm great. You know, yay, life.
yeah. I mean, it's been.
I feel like that's the current climate, what we all in the world kind of live in right now. Unless you've been hiding in the rock, we live in a new fashion world of social distancing and COVID-19 related things.
Yeah.
So, yeah. I don't feel like okay, to be honest, because I still get to go to work every day, so I get to leave my house every day, and I go to the store still, and I do all that stuff. So I don't feel like super duper impacted. There's certain things I can't really do that I used to not do, but I would say I'm still living my life at about a good, strong 70 to 75%.
Yeah.
Where most people is not even anything close to that. So I could be much worse off. So, can't complain. I'm not out of work. I'm healthy-ish. Minus the whole, morbidly obese thing, that thing going on. My son's healthy. My girl's good. So everything's copacetic.
Copacetic. Yeah. How
are you?
I'm all right. I still get to work. I don't have to go into the office, so I usually work from home, but I can if I want to. I do go to the gym at my work. My work has a gym at our corporate office, so I've been able to exercise, so that gets me out of the house for 45 minutes to an hour, just exercise, and then can come home and shower and chill out. So yeah, I feel like I haven't been super affected, other than, the normal things, social distancing. And I live in Yolo County in California, which we have we're behind Sacramento County. We have to still wear masks everywhere. You can't get into any business if you're not wearing a mask. And
yeah, dude. I experienced that because my work is in Yolo County, because it's in West Sacramento, and pretty much most of the gas station businesses, etc. I actually got kicked out of a Chipotle because they require you to wear a mask, and my dude freaked out on me over it. I was really pissed off, because I was just really just annoyed by it all. I was just there's nobody in your fucking store anyways. There's a huge sneeze guard plus extra room. Beyond that, there's more than 10 feet, I would say, between the customer and the person. I guess I understand its rules and all that, but it's just I don't know. I respect everyone's opinion on the whole matter. Just where I lie, I feel a lot of this is just really unnecessary.
Yeah, I'm different. I don't really respect people's opinions on things that I think they're misinformed on. But yeah, businesses and counties have the rights to make their own rules, and if we don't like it, we don't have to go. And yeah, I support that. But I don't think masks do anything, and there have been studies that show that. So, but people, if they want to believe they're saving lives and they're liberating people or going on some great quest to save the world by wearing masks and forcing other people to wear masks, yeah, all for it.
Yeah, sure. That's too funny.
But yeah, funny, dude. Unfortunately, this is the reality where we live in right now, where we have to talk about coronavirus and COVID-19 because it's the only thing really happening. It's been an adjustment to have to social distance and things like that, but it's not been I don't know. I don't feel personally affected, but I feel bad for all the people that are inevitably affected by this. People with mental health issues who are forced to stay in with their thoughts all day. People with substance abuse issues that have been sober but now are, going back to their old ways because they don't have that support system. They don't have therapy. Like people that have lost their jobs and will never get them back. People that after this will have mounds of debt and be evicted from their houses and apartments and everything else. Like we want to talk about the death toll and like, hey, we have to do this to save lives, but people are losing their lives every day because even if they don't have it, because they're affected by what we're doing in response to it. So
right, yeah. Yeah, I mean, dude, it definitely sucks, man. It's just like, it's just like, it's a difficult situation. I mean, like you said, every day people consistently losing jobs, businesses that have been around for like 30 plus years that, like on the back of like extremely hard work and dedication, it's just like going under and, like nobody, like, like the economy just can't support like the mom and pop shops and like, the non-franchise businesses and things like that. And it's just like, it's a really difficult situation, like not just like us, but it's just the entire world is like really affected. And it's just, people losing their jobs and people losing their houses, can't pay their mortgage, can't pay their rent, can't pay their car note, I'm sure like the rise of fucking depression is like through the roof right now. I mean, I couldn't imagine a world where it's not, just based off of like basic logic,
Right.
It's just like, it just really sucks that like, people are suffering and people are going through all this.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many sides to it, and it's like, is what we're doing worth saving, X amount of lives, and we're not the ones qualified to answer that question. We can have our opinion, but someone else, that's the job of our governments to decide if it's worth it, and us as people overall to decide. And 2/3 or something like 3/4 of Americans think that it is worth it. Three-quarters of the United States believe that what we're doing is necessary to save those lives, and they judge people who think that the economy is important and things like that. Or whatever. Like people make jokes about it, but it's like without money, the entire world doesn't work. And you might not you might not like it or agree with it, but that's how everything works.
Yeah, I mean, it's really unfortunate, but it's a society, it's a capitalist society we live in. Money rules all, and then rules the world.
Right.
And there's nothing you could do about it, Jack.
Yeah. So we'll I guess kind of transitioning a little bit. We'll open up with like some of the questions that people sent in to us because at least this is fun to talk about, right? So, one of my friends sent me a question. His name is Captain Hot Sauce, whoever that is.
Oh wow, what a douche!
He said hold on, let me bring it up. He said, "Is it true you are the best?" I don't know if he's asking me or you, or just us together. I'm not sure. So for me, I'm not gonna say
either way. It's a strong yes.
Yeah. Okay. Well, for me, I don't think I'm the best, but I think together we could be the best. And if you're already the best, then adding me to it.
The best.
True. So
true. That is, it's so funny. It's just like, it's so funny because it's such like a meme now that is, it's like from Pokemon and stuff. But it's just like, it's really how I feel about anything I do. Like, okay, Magic the Gathering, I wanted to be the best. Video games, I wanted to be the best. Cooking, I wanted to be the best. It's like whatever I do, I just don't feel like, I don't really do things in half measures. I don't feel like, like I just like have the drive to like want to be really good at whatever I'm doing at that moment. Doesn't mean I'm gonna stay interested in it forever, but
well, also like when you do things like in general, like this doesn't apply to everyone, but for you and for me as well, I think is like when we do things, and we feel like we're losing or we're not good at it, it makes it unenjoyable. So why would we want to do it? So anything that we enjoy, like relatively, we want to be good at it, because if we're not, eventually we won't want to do it anymore.
Right, yeah, exactly. Podcasting, whatever it is that you're doing, you should always strive to be the best at it.
Yeah.
So I mean, not everybody takes that approach, and that's fine.
Right, which is why a lot of video games and like even Magic and stuff, like they gear their product to the casuals, like casual people who don't really care, because they're the ones who are, I don't know why actually, probably because they make up the majority of the base, I guess.
All right. It is true.
Yeah. So
do you have any other questions that were sent in to us?
I do. I have 2 more questions. So
go ahead, roll them out there, friend.
Yeah, my friend Sedona asked what our biggest continuity pet peeves are in Harry Potter and or Star Wars and or Marvel.
Continuity. So, like, meaning like the difference between like the books and the movies?
No.
Or like what is like the one thing like that in X movie that really just annoyed you, that like you're like, that's not realistic?
No, continuity errors are like changes made later on that you like obviously weren't true.
Okay, so like what was made canon that you feel like shouldn't have been? Is that a better way?
Things like in Star Wars, like midichlorians, like people hated, like, when you have Obi-Wan in A New Hope explaining the Force, and it's this energy field that surrounds us and binds us and gives the Jedi their powers, and then you have midichlorians, in 1999, from Qui-Gon, and people are like, what the fuck, things like that.
Right. Okay.
But
pertaining to which series?
So she said Star Wars, Harry Potter, and or Marvel. So I don't really have anything for Marvel, because things change too much in comic books to even talk about. But for
I mean, you could go on for days about that.
Right. For Harry Potter, I will say that I think J.K. Rowling does a really good job of retroactive continuity, like changing things later, but like making it make sense. The only one that like really bothers me is like the idea that Snape was protecting Harry the whole time, because if you read the books, it's very clear that he went out of his way to torture Harry, like and embarrass him in front of everybody. So like the idea that he was just protecting him the whole time, like, is kind of absurd to me. But yeah, other than that, like I don't really have many problems with the continuity of Harry Potter, because J.K. Rowling typically does a good job, like if she changes things later, of like making it make sense. And not just like ignoring it. For Star Wars, yeah, I mean, you can mention any number of things, especially in the new trilogy, that have been changed or don't make sense, including midichlorians and how the Force works and things like that. Those things do get annoying, but it doesn't take away necessarily from my enjoyment of the movies, aside from the new trilogy.
Okay, and then what about? Oh wait, you already addressed. Yeah, so I would have to say, comics. It's just like kind of like piggybacking off what you said. It is far too hard to sit there and pinpoint one thing, because it's like the comic books. They're never ending story, of course, for the most part. I mean, obviously certain things do end, but it's like for the most part they just continue it, or they restart it, or like. It just keeps going. So like we can literally fill like an entire year's worth of segments, like talking about just Marvel. So it's like,
right. Well,
like maybe if they could pin it to a certain movie or something like that. So maybe if like there's a more detailed like aspect of like what this listener or person might be trying to reach for towards Marvel, like if they could give me a better idea. Yeah. Like maybe I can answer that question a little bit better.
I
just feel like
maybe
it's hard,
Yeah, I think maybe she was like specifically maybe talking about the MCU, because I doubt she's read a lot of Marvel comics. But she's probably talking about the books. I mean, the movies. But even there's 22 of them, and there's just so much stuff going on. So it's really hard.
Okay, so I mean, so she's talking about movies. That's a little bit different. You know what I mean? 'Cause
right.
There's so many changes that they then again, it's like, okay, then we got to like dissect each film. Mm, that's really hard. That's trying to think of like anything just right off the top of my head gearing towards Marvel. I mean, hmm.
Yeah, it's hard because I've been in a Star Wars kick lately, so I'm like thinking a lot about Star Wars. I haven't
It's all
watched
fun.
like Marvel movies in a while.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, I'd have to like really think about it. Let me think about that, right?
Yeah.
And then I'll come back next time we podcast and I'll re-answer the Marvel aspect of it. So, hmm, geez, see, it's like hard because okay, like Harry Potter. So if we're strictly talking books, I think it'd be anything that J.K. Rowling really says.
True.
Because it's like, you just sit there and say, like, okay, Snape. And, like, that was, like, probably one of the more annoying things that she ever said. Because, like, he strictly goes out of his way to, like, fuck with Harry. You know what I mean? So what indication do you ever have, other than, like, the reveal of, like, who he is, that, like, he was ever, like, trying to protect Harry? Like, you don't know that. That's, like, essentially just playing with the audience. Like, that's playing unfair, Like, you can't do things like that. So, like, and then, like, you can easily point out the things, like Dumbledore is gay, Hermione is black, things like that, I don't like that, just because, like, and we've talked about those two specific things very many times. Like, J.K. Rowling is a very good writer, right?
Yeah.
She's very descriptive of, like, she's very intentional of how she describes people, right?
Right. Yeah.
Like, the very few black people that are actually in the story, she goes out of her way to describe them as being such, And trust me, very few of them. So the random notion that she just randomly forgot to, like, describe one of the main characters, like, I find that absurd. I think that's ridiculous. And the same thing with, I guess, like, I don't specifically ever remember her, like, describing sexual orientation, and that's a very slippery slope. Unless if, like, being of that, like, a certain sexual orientation matters to your character development, but it would have to be an ongoing theme, right?
Yeah.
So with that being said, if it's not an ongoing theme, how can you then try to retroactive it to make your story more inclusive? That's exactly what she's trying to do. I mean, she's not really pulling the wool over anybody's eyes. Come on, guys. Let's get real. That's all she's trying to do with the Hermione and Dumbledore comments of, like, sexual orientation and race. You're just trying to be more inclusive, whereas I'm all for more inclusion for everyone, but it's just like, do it on your next story. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, do it differently. Like, don't go back and things that have already been written and be like, oh, well, what I meant to say was this. Well, that's not what you said.
Yeah, I think, like, it's fine for readers if they can, like, see that within the book to come to their own conclusions. But having J.K. Rowling come out and say, oh, yeah, this is this, this is that, like, it doesn't really work.
Right.
Even, like, Joss Whedon, creator of Buffy, recently came out and said that if he did Buffy today, Willow, who was a lesbian on the show later, like we find out in the 4th season, like, she would have been bisexual in his if he did it today, because back then, like, people didn't really understand, like, you either were gay or you're straight, so, like, he didn't make her bisexual. But he didn't say, oh no, she was bisexual, like, back then. He's reappropriating it today, which is what you should do. You shouldn't just go back and be like, oh no, I know I made it obvious that they were this way, but no, now because I want to change something, they were actually this way.
Yeah, exactly. And then, okay, so for Star Wars, there's, like, a couple things, but one thing, it would have to be in the new trilogy, right? That Palpatine was Rey's, like, grandfather or whatever. I don't know. I find that annoying. Like, And I'm even trying to think back to, like, because I haven't watched the originals in a little while. Like, probably in over a little bit over a year. But I've been, like, watching, like, the prequels a lot and then, like, some of the newer ones a lot recently.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm trying to even think back to, like, to an extent, it's like, I know it was, like, one of the greatest reveals ever, you know? But it kind of just, like, annoyed me. I was just like, huh? You know, like, kind of, like, I'm kind of, like, think back, like, were there any clues that they were ever related, you know? Like, meaning, like, Darth Vader and Luke and Leia and all that stuff. Like, it's just, like, I don't know. It's just, like, the absurd notion that you could just throw it out there and then it just be true and just, like, what?
Well, even with, like, the fact that within Empire Strikes Back, you have both Luke and Leia kissing, and then later Yoda saying there's another, like, pretty much referring to Leia, which we know now, but at the time, there's no way George Lucas had that in mind, because we didn't get the reveal until later in Return of the Jedi. But if he was like, oh yeah, they're gonna be brother and sister, there's no way he would have had them kiss.
Yeah, I mean, definitely one of the, like, probably easily top 5 quotes of all time in a movie by his mother, you know? Oh, definitely easily top 5. But if you think of it in the parameters of storytelling, right? It doesn't make any sense. It makes no fucking sense to me. I'm just like, don't get me wrong, and I know, well, fuck boy, fucking Star Wars fan fucks everywhere across the world are fucking enraged, fucking grabbing their fucking imaginary lightsabers. Dude, I'm coming for you, nerdy boy, Scott. Bring it on, bitch. I don't give a shit. I'll fucking kick your ass with one off behind my back. No, I'm just playing, but I can see how enraged people are. I can just imagine. Are you serious? Do you know how idiotic? No. Do you, like, really? I'm being serious, though. Like, think about it, dude. Like, I can't be the only one that feels like when I watch that type of thing, and I know they're not the only ones to ever do it, but, like, I never, like, get satisfaction out of those type of, like those kind of reveals like that. You know, I'm just like, huh?
Yeah.
The fuck?
I
don't know.
I think within, like, the parameters of Empire Strikes Back is, like, it's difficult to know for sure, because, like, all my life I've always known Darth Vader is Luke's father. So every time I see it, it's never a surprise. Like, it's just
right.
Like it just is what it is. So.
Yeah, I mean, no, it's like fact, you know what I mean? But, like, it's like you take yourself out of it, strip it down, right? You know, like how you could do with, like, Harry Potter, and how, like, you can listen. I forgot who you do with, like, you, like, listen to, like, the literary, like, teacher or whatever, or, you know what I'm talking about. That's the thing you listen to with Harry Potter.
Yeah.
I wish there was somebody that did that with Star Wars, because I promise you they would fucking point that out, dude. I promise you, dude. I can't be the only one. Any listener out there, if you agree with me, just tell us I'm right.
I mean, I think it works now. Like, it works because
I feel like it was like a one-off that worked, and then, like, it felt so much more cheaper once it was done again. You know what I mean?
Yeah, like,
because then it leads to so many other questions. It leaves everything so muddied and muddled, and you're just like, what the fuck?
Yeah,
like, I'm so confused.
I think when you
I don't really understand.
I think when you consider, like, now modern day, like, with the prequel trilogy, like, it makes sense because Obi-Wan was with Luke on Tatooine. It would make sense he would bring him, you know, on this mission, and then, you know, Darth Vader obviously is the ruler of where they're going, so, you know, it's like, okay, he'll meet. But the idea that, you know, from the other side of the world, Princess Leia, like, from the other side of the universe or the galaxy, like, there's this random woman who is also gonna be there, who is your sister. Like, I don't know. It's obvious that wasn't planned. It's just something that happened, right? And
then he's like, oh, dude, you know, it would be so epic. It's like, you know, to an extent, it is really epic. Don't get me wrong. You know what I mean? But, like, at the same time, like, I guess.
yeah.
Like, all right, I guess I can accept that.
Right. Right.
Like, but then, like, if you like take a step back from fandom, take yourself out of it, and just think about it. And don't you always tell me, like, you can't judge one work of art off of a body of art, you know? Like, you say, like, I know that I'm misquoting you, but, like, you get what I'm trying to say. Like,
Yeah, the stories,
like, it has to be a standalone story.
yeah, the stories have to stand on their
So,
own.
in that time, right, it makes no fucking sense. It only gains understanding and, like, you only get better representation once the prequels are made. Then you're like, okay, cool. But other than that, like, you don't fucking understand who the fuck Darth Vader is. You don't get any of that, you know?
Right. I think
I'm just saying.
I still, like, even with you explaining, like, I understand what you're saying, but I don't have a problem with the Darth Vader, like, reveal as Luke's father. I don't have a problem with him being Luke's father. Like, it's more interesting to me, like, how the Emperor finds out that it's his son, like, and he's like, oh yeah, that's the offspring of Skywalker, and it's like, oh, okay, but how does he know? Like maybe the Force tells him. I don't know, but yeah, I mean,
yeah, and I almost feel like it's just like better. I don't know. Like, if you just almost like think about it differently, right?
Mm-hmm.
Where it's like more of okay. So you take that and you accept that, okay, Luke is Darth Vader's father. But, like, throwing way into the mix is just like is this supposed to, like, resolve the whole fucking, like, Luke, Leia awkward crush thing going on?
Yeah, the Luke Leia stuff is really weird. Like, the more you think about it, like, and I think a lot of people understand, like, it's obviously something that wasn't planned, that, like, was just later done, and it's like it doesn't necessarily work.
Exactly, and that's what I'm saying. Like, and I think the character of Leia becomes far better and far more interesting in the new movies. I think she's a much better character, in my opinion. It's pretty controversial, right? Hot takes. I know. You can only get them through at the Nitty Boys Reviews podcast. I know, guys. Hit subscribe and, you know, just follow every podcast and you get hot takes like this all the time, dude. I'm just saying.
Yeah. I mean, and it also makes her relationship with Han a little better. Like the thing is, right? Star Wars has never done well with relationships. Like, relationships within Star Wars are kind of not great.
So you're saying, so what you're saying is, so what you're telling me, right, is if it weren't for the weird afterthought brother-sister connection of Luke and Leia, we're getting somewhere.
What I'm saying is it's better for the story if she chooses Han instead of just being like, oh well, he's my brother, so you're the only option left.
Yeah, I can't really do that with you, buddy.
Yeah, but
that's frowned upon in this galaxy. If we were in that galaxy, it'd be a different story, bud.
Yeah, if we were in the galaxy of Alabama, brother.
All right. Like, I don't know. And then like, you fast forward to, like, the new movies, right? And the thing with Rey, it just felt like, and I mean, the whole series is pretty much just like a retooled version of the original story. Like, I mean, there's just no getting past it. I mean, obviously, there are some differences, no fucking shit. But for the most part, there's, like, they hit these very important key moments that was like a roadmap of fucking the originals. And I'm just like, okay, fucking check. Check. I'm like, the only thing that we're missing is fucking for fucking Darth Vader to come out and be like, well, I'm his father. It was fucking that did it.
In broad strokes, it's very similar. Like, and the more I think about the new trilogy, like, I've enjoyed all those movies, but the more I think about the new trilogy, the more I'm just so done with it. Like, it's not, like, because, all right, so my fiance...
So if I, like, surely just, like, ruin the movie,
like okay, so my fiance like she watched the original trilogy and she wasn't like super into it. And so I was like, all right, maybe she'll enjoy the prequels because, hey, like they're more updated, like they're like there's more action. I don't know, maybe she'll enjoy it. Right? So we started watching The Phantom Menace like a week ago and she got like 20 minutes in and she was so bored. And then I was like, God damn it, but like yesterday she finished it and she actually really liked it. And she's asking me all these questions or whatever, and then she's asking me, "Oh, what are the new movies about?" And as soon as I start talking about it, I'm like, "Oh my god, it's so bad. I don't want like I cannot describe these movies in a good way to her. Like even though I like them,
Right.
but yeah. So the funny thing though is that
okay, I was rewatching like the Phantom Menace, right? I almost sidetracked it.
Mhm.
So I feel like the Phantom Menace really fucked that, dude. It just took too long to get to anything. It took way too long.
Well, a lot of people. A lot of people's issues with the Phantom Menace are that the acting isn't great, the dialogue isn't great, and the like third act is like you're resolving four things at once. You have the Gungan battle, the space battle to knock out the trade ship, the Queen Amidala trying to arrest the Viceroy, and the fight with Darth Maul. Four things all going on at once, and a lot of people think that was not smart. I don't necessarily have a problem with it, but the funny thing is, like when Anakin was like destroying the ship in space, my fiance was like, "Oh, it's like the Death Star."
I know.
So yep, another space battle destroying another space station.
Right.
But
yeah. I don't know, man. I feel like maybe they should have just left the series at the original, man. And don't get me wrong, I actually like the prequels, but
yeah, I mean, and when you think about it, like,
that's how funny. My girlfriend fucking loves the fucking prequels, but the only reason why is because like when Anakin's growing up, she thinks he's so hot. Like I'm pretty sure she met that actor in real life. She probably leaves him for me.
Right.
I mean, me for him.
Yeah, I mean, something that you and I think have talked about before, and that we've always kind of thought is like how pivotal the Phantom Menace is with Qui-Gon dying, because without Qui-Gon dying, Anakin would have never been trained really. But
yeah, exactly.
But he actually would have been trained by Qui-Gon, and this is something Dave Filoni, who worked on the Clone Wars, also an animator for he did Avatar: The Last Airbender. He was an animator for that, but he did the Clone Wars with George Lucas and everything else, and he worked on the Mandalorian. So he was talking like there's like behind the scenes stuff about the Mandalorian. He was saying no, the importance of Qui-Gon Jinn is that he was the father that Anakin didn't have. And by him dying, Obi-Wan trained him. Obi-Wan was his brother, not his father. So Anakin, when he meets Luke, has to become the father he never had. And he would have never followed that path necessarily if Qui-Gon would have been alive.
That's interesting.
Yeah, I thought that was like really like a good take.
Very in-depth and very what is it? Intuitive?
Yeah, so, but, I mean, and that's the thing is, like, Star Wars...
Very, very, very good take. I really like it. I really enjoy hearing that, Yeah.
Star Wars has always been about family and about hope. Over everything else, like, it's a story of hope and family. And, like, with the new trilogy, they tried to force the family thing, and, like, it feels like a lot of times there's just no hope. So, it's not. That's why it's just like so difficult to come to terms with. But unless you have something else, we'll go to our last question.
Right. Go ahead.
Okay. So my friend Matt had asked me about in Avengers Endgame, did Thor take Mjolnir back to its timeline, or did he keep it? And the thing is, they don't ever tell you or show you in the movie. So, I don't know, do we assume he did? Because if he didn't, that would greatly affect the timeline. And I don't know. Where do you fall on that?
Wait, hold on. Can you repeat the question?
So you remember in Endgame when Thor went back in time, he took Mjolnir from... what would have been during the Dark World timeline, right?
Okay.
And so his question is, when they went back and replaced the Infinity Stones, because, we were explained, hey, if you remove a stone from the timeline, it'll fuck everything up. You have to bring him back. Does he actually bring Mjolnir back as well? Or does he keep it in our modern day timeline?
Mm-mm. Man, that is a very good question. One that I cannot answer. Well, because if he takes it back, that obviously affects the timeline, right? Like going forward, then Thor doesn't have Mjolnir the whole time.
Right. If he keeps
Because
it,
I mean,
then
I would like to think that me and you have a very, very good understanding of time travel and like timelines and stuff.
yeah.
So, according to what most anything I've ever known about, he couldn't have taken it back. So,
Well, he would have had to take it back, right?
no.
Because if he
Because
keeps it,
if he would have done that, then he would have never had Mjolnir in the first place for Thanos to destroy.
but if no, Thanos didn't destroy it. Hela destroyed it.
Oh yeah, that's right. Well, okay, that's right. Wow, oh my God, I'm hella misremembering. Well, okay, yeah, because if he took it from the Dark World time, obviously that happened afterwards. Hela happened afterwards, so that still couldn't have happened.
But if he doesn't bring it back to that timeline, then he wouldn't have even had it to fight Malekith, and then he probably would have lost, because we saw what happened after it was destroyed. He lost his whole identity until
right, exactly.
So he would have had to bring it back in order for events to continue to transpire the way they did, or else events would have transpired differently. My concern is that when they do Thor: Love and Thunder, if he did bring it back, somehow Jane Foster is going to pick it up somehow in that timeline to become Thor, or they're going to find another way to make her Thor. But if she picks it up and becomes Thor, then that whole timeline is fucked.
Right. Yeah, I think that it was an oversight. I think that's a very good question, by the way.
Yeah.
That is a really good question and a very observant eye. One that I never even thought of. It's just like one of those things I was just like, okay, you guys can both. I didn't really think about it. And it's just like one of those things. I think it was either an oversight, or it was one of those things that that they probably originally acted out to explain, but then it didn't make the cut. And then they're just kind of hoping, they're like, okay, a good 95% of people are not going to get that.
Yeah. I mean,
then there's going to be the 5% that are going to get it, and they're going to be like, what the fuck? And you're like, I don't know what you're talking about, dude.
Right. And time travel's already so convoluted. It's just ugh. How does this work? Because even they, their writers and everything, are like, oh yeah, well, it doesn't function the way it functions in other movies. It's like, okay, well, how does it fucking function then? So.
Yeah, that's really confusing. Yeah, that would be a question I feel like better asked for a director of that film, or a writer of that film. Because they may easily just say what I said, and they're like, okay, so we had originally written it in, but obviously not everything can make the cut in the film. Things have to be cut out, the excess fat, things that are not going to interest the audience as much.
Right.
So,
yeah. And
with that being said, I mean, the film's already very, very long as is, so they can't really justify making it longer than what it already was.
Right. I think
I totally understand his frustration, because now I'm thinking oh shit, how did that work?
Yeah, I think it'll be resolved in the next Thor movie. I think they either have to explain it or just ignore it. And if they ignore it,
right.
Then I don't know. So yeah, I don't know. Somehow Jane Foster becomes Thor, so we have to have Mjolnir. So they either have to address it, or it's just gonna be ignored, and we're just gonna not know. Or I don't know.
Right.
But we do have a little bit of news, and then we'll move into our main topic of this podcast. So we'll run through the news real quick because it's not a lot. First thing is Justice League is getting its Snyder Cut. It's coming to HBO Max in 2021. They're giving him $20 to $30 million additional to complete like the special effects and everything, and all the cast members have shared their support for it. What do you think?
I mean, I'm fine with that. You know, it's just kind of whatever. I think they've already ran down the rabbit hole already, so might as well just keep going.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think the movie can be worse. And like, I don't know. Like, I'm not a big fan of what Zack Snyder's done to characters like Batman and Superman and Lex Luthor and others, but hey, maybe his vision for the movie was better. So, I mean, it can't hurt to see it, right?
Right, yeah, definitely can't. It can't hurt to see that at all, you know. Yeah. I know he was a really tough time and all that stuff, so hopefully he's in the right frame of mind to be doing all that stuff. You know, I don't know if they already even had everything. They're just trying to repackage it, maybe. I don't know.
Right. Yep.
But yeah, you know, I mean, the movie kind of, you know, it's got dick anyway, so I can't get much worse.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know how much more blunt I can be. Like, the movie's terrible. I mean, I don't even know if I'd waste my time watching it, to be honest.
Yeah.
Like, this is that terrible. I don't know how many times we need to sit there and tell these people, like, DC, what are you guys doing? Take the fucking TV actors and plug their storylines into the fucking films. Then you have a cohesive universe. Oh, bada bing, bada boom. It saves you a lot of time of introducing characters, making unnecessary films, although they're excited to make new films because they know people will go watch them and make money off of it.
Right.
But if you have any sort of sense of pride in your work, you would like, oh, jump all over that. Like, Grant Gustin, what are you doing, buddy?
Yeah.
You know?
Yep, totally.
I thought, okay, to be fair though, okay, question.
Mm-hmm.
Would you bring Green Arrow into the film? Like, his version.
The problem is
the CW version.
The problem is the CW version of Green Arrow is too much like Batman, and I don't think really works in a full team environment as shown in the TV show. Like, he couldn't keep his team together to save his life. So.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I wholeheartedly agree with that, and I just think Justin Hartley's version is just better geared towards that. I would love to see Justin Hartley back as Green Arrow in the films. I think it'd be great. Obviously, I mean, if you bring him back, you might as well just bring back Tom Welling. Yeah. I mean, bada bing, bada boom. Now we're cooking with some gas. You understand?
Yeah. I mean, and someone we know who will not be brought to the big screen is Ruby Rose as Batwoman, because she is not Batwoman anymore. Ruby Rose has left the role. Apparently it's like mutual. Like, I guess she kind of wanted to leave because during one of the stunts it went wrong. She almost was paralyzed for the rest of her life. And I don't know. But yeah, Ruby Rose is out as Batwoman, but they're moving forward with season 2, so they'll recast her. What do you think?
I mean, okay, so I'll be honest, dude. I haven't even watched her.
Yeah, I never watched it. I only saw her in the crossover she was in.
Exactly.
The Crisis.
I never watched Batwoman. Well, I'm so disinterested because, like, so they had like this great pump on CW. I feel like they went very awry and very wrong in a lot of places. I never think it was the right move for CW to take over Supergirl, but I actually think from the get-go, I like Melissa Benoist, but like I hate that version of Supergirl. I just don't like it. I don't think it's a great TV show. There were some great aspects. Obviously, I didn't keep watching, but like the whole thing, like I loved her and Mon-El, right? That whole story, and then like he got sent to outer space, and then he came back in time travel, and he was fucking married. I was like overly just done with that series at that point. Like, this is bullshit. I'm done.
Right. Well,
I'm done with this. And then I was like overly done with like even though I get like a weird like kid satisfaction out of Legends of Tomorrow, but like as an adult watching it, it's hard for me to like stay engaged and interested in it because it's so just like what's the flavor of the week kind of thing.
Yeah.
You know?
It's not enjoyable to me.
Right. Whereas like Arrow and The Flash, they have a cohesive story.
Right.
I think.
Yeah, I stopped watching almost everything except for Arrow and Flash. But I haven't watched the latest season, and I've heard people saying like the Flash, the writing and stuff has really just gone to shit.
Yeah, I just feel like they may have ran their course. They had a good run, man. And no doubt, I think Flash might be, it's hard to say something more of my favorite TV show than Smallville, but it's up there.
Yeah, I mean,
It's like right up there.
Definitely had its good seasons.
Just like, you can't get better than like Grant Gustin and Carlos Valdez. You know, they're just so great.
Yeah.
And I forget the name of Joe and Tom Cavanaugh. Yeah, there you go.
Tom Cavanaugh was Wells.
Is by far the unspoken hero of that fucking show, dude. The amount of the ability to sit there and play the same character but differently is actually just like kind of genius idea. It's like an awkwardly just like genius like concept that works, and every time it's like such an interesting version of that character.
Right. Yeah. I almost wonder, like, because the CW seems to be like trying to ramp up and build more for like their universe, like with like Superman and Lois and like all these other shows. But it's like you almost wonder if like they should just end their CW stint and move to like their DC Universe stuff. But I don't know what's gonna happen. So.
I don't know, dude. Well, for one, I will say I would not be on board for what's his name being Superman.
Oh yeah.
No.
Tyler Hoechlin, is that guy, or is that someone else?
Yeah, Tyler Hoechlin.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah. Anywho, we totally went off on a tangent. Go ahead and continue with the movie.
Yeah, anyway, Ruby Rose is out, Batwoman still continue, but from what I've heard, a lot of people love the show but hate her, so that'll be good, I guess. I don't know. This is not news. I don't know why this is part of the news. This just came up again. Sony is announcing again that they're planning a Spider-Man spin-off film with Jackpot. We talked about Jackpot fucking 3 years ago. Why? Why do we care about Jackpot, guys? Is the question.
We actually don't care about him at all.
Well, that's the thing. Jackpot is a woman. Most people don't even know anything about Jackpot, to be honest. Jackpot was a character Jackpot was introduced in 2007 and was like a part of one run of Spider-Man comics. It was one woman who had no powers and was injecting herself with some hormone shit, and then she became Jackpot. And then she didn't want to do it anymore because she had a kid, and so someone else became Jackpot, and then they died. And then Spider-Man's like, you should be Jackpot again, and that was her whole fucking story. There you go. Why do you need a fucking movie?
Maybe the story won't revolve around Jackpot. Maybe Jackpot will just make an appearance. Like, did they explicitly say?
Yeah, it's a Jackpot movie.
That Jackpot is going to be the main villain in the film? No. Like, did they actually say this film is going to be Spider-Man versus Jackpot?
No Spider-Man
or anything like that.
Oh no, it says they're planning a film revolving around Jackpot as the main character, no Spider-Man. It's going to take place in the Venom universe with just Jackpot.
I hate this one. And the apocalypse has happened already.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a little too dark. I'm sorry. Oh, man. It's just like, dude, why? I don't care, dude. Who cares what Sony does anymore?
I mean...
They're fucking... who the fuck is that guy?
Yeah, there was another announcement from Sony that like they're like, oh, we're gonna make a new female-led like Spider-Man universe movie, but not with Spider-Man. And a lot of people are like, oh, like a lot of the news reports like Variety and stuff are in like Hollywood Reporter are like, oh, it's probably about Madam Web. Which again, I don't want a fucking Madam Web movie. I'm sorry, like she's cool and all, but she's not a fucking main character to me. And maybe it's Jackpot. Maybe that's who the fuck it is. I don't know. Anyway, I'm done with Sony right now. We're gonna get to some Star Wars news because that's the majority of the news is Star Wars. So
Let's bring it down, buddy.
Jason Isaacs, who is I guess is most popular for his portrayal of Lucius Malfoy. He does a lot of voice acting. He did the voice acting for one of the Inquisitors in Star Wars Rebels, and the Inquisitors, if you guys don't know, are like force-powered Sith, pretty much, who are responsible for hunting down the remaining Jedi after Order 66. He voices Superman in the new Red Sun stuff, and he's done a bunch of voice work. And someone asked him, like, out of who you voiced for animation, who would you want to play live action of those characters? And he said he'd like to be an Inquisitor, possibly in like a live action Rebels show or something. So
that'd be good. I think he's a really good actor, dude.
Yeah.
If I've seen him in any movie, I wouldn't even care, dude. I'd be pretty stoked about that, to be honest. I think the way he played Lucius in Harry Potter, I think it was brilliant. I think he's like so like he's like most actors have their niche, right? Like, and I just think he's just so geared towards playing like bad guys.
Right.
I just think like whatever role he gets as a bad guy, I just don't feel like he can do any wrong.
Well, in his portrayal,
he's
Lucius
like such a good
Malfoy,
actor.
yeah, his portrayal of Lucius Malfoy did accomplish everything from the villain to the smug guy to kind of charming to his deteriorating mental state when Voldemort is back and forcing Draco to do shit to like he just does so much as that character.
And he's like, I don't know, he's like menacing too.
Yeah.
Like when you see him actually as like at the end, like when he's a Death Eater and stuff. Like I'm just saying, he's like pretty menacing in those parts.
Yeah.
I'm just like, oh.
Yeah, he does a great job with that role. In other Star Wars news, so there's reports of Bo-Katan, who is a Mandalorian from the show Star Wars Rebels. There's rumors she's gonna be in the Mandalorian series, and that reportedly Katie Sackhoff has been cast. Apparently, I guess she's just perfect for every role. Also, Tamara Morrison will portray Boba Fett in Mandalorian Season 2, and he was Jango Fett in Attack of the Clones, so obviously perfect casting.
Right. He knows what to do, man. He was Jango Fett.
Yeah,
I remember that guy.
So the interesting thing is I did read an article that was saying like, oh, is the Mandalorian gonna fall into the trap of the sequel trilogy where, you know, they're gonna just bring in all these legacy characters and it's gonna like ruin the show? But I don't think they will. I don't think they'll ruin it by doing this.
Yeah, I can't really see that show doing that. I don't know. I just think like that show is probably like the best piece of Star Wars that we've had in a really long time.
Yeah, to me, it's still the best thing to ever come out of Star Wars.
Really, ever.
Well, not like, you know, outside of the mainstream, like outside of the original trilogy.
I was like, whoa, watch yourself, buddy boy.
But I mean, like, you know, when you talk about spin-offs, like things like Rogue One or Solo, or even like the cartoons, like the Clone Wars series is amazing, and Rebels is really good, but like, I don't know, I feel like nothing really touches like what this has done for Star Wars. And you have to credit Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni because they have this innate understanding of Star Wars, and Dave Filoni's worked so closely with George Lucas. Like, I think it's just...
It's probably mainly him, but dude, we talked about it so many times. Jon Favreau, what a fucking legend that guy is.
Yeah, he's a mover and shaker.
That guy is so... I just think he understands how to like do the production and like just like he just understands how to make them all. He just knows what to do. He's just like one of those gifted geniuses, if you will.
Right, and we credit Kevin Feige with the MCU all the time, but there'd be no MCU without Jon Favreau doing Iron Man 1. So.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. I mean, you know, as much as. Yeah. Exactly what you said. don't even know if you can read it.
And in some good news, the VFX crew, the virtual effects crew of The Mandalorian, says that COVID-19 will not delay season 2 of The Mandalorian, which is currently in post-production. It will be out still October of this year.
Yeah, anything that's already in post-production, it doesn't need it. And I only know that because, so if you're like intertwined in like the sports world, like very just like engulfed in it, like you're always paying attention to what's going on and stuff, like I am, because I work for Amazon as like a delivery guy, and like so I'm in the van all day long, listening to music or whatever. I listen to like AM radio stations, listening to sports, 1140 pretty much all day long. And like most of like what they talk about, because there's no live sports, is like the Michael Jordan documentary. And a lot of like what they talk about was like how the COVID-19 affects them and stuff. And pretty much because like they're already in post production and stuff, like they didn't need to do any of the filming anymore. The process is longer, but it's doable because you can do everything from home. You know what I mean? Like everything that you do at like the studios and stuff, you just have to be able to go and get that equipment and set it up at your house.
Right.
Which I'm not saying is an easy task to do, but you can do that. You know what I mean? There are programs out there. There are equipment out there to help you out and do those things. So, like, people that are in post-production is already easily doable. If you're not and you still have a lot of filming to do in person, depends on the scenes. Maybe you can shoot some scenes and not other scenes. It really just depends.
Yeah.
But,
yeah.
Yep.
So that's some good news. Also, Taika Waititi, we all know him, we all love him. Director of Thor Ragnarok, he directed the season finale of The Mandalorian. He's getting his own Star Wars movie to write and direct.
Are you fucking kidding me? Dude, it's gonna be fucking so good. I can't wait, dude. I'm so happy about that.
Yeah, and
I can't wait.
I think no matter what it's about, it'll be great. Because he's just a fantastic writer. Like he was even nominated for some Academy Award or something for a movie he did called Jojo Rabbit, which I haven't seen, but yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy good what he's done.
Dude, talk about somebody who is just on the up and up, dude. He is like on the A list right now. You can land him, you're fucking good to go, man.
Yeah, definitely. So that concludes the news, but what we really wanted to talk about was kind of how the coronavirus has affected the comic book industry as a whole. And while doing research for this, like, there's so many different facets to it, from the local store to the writers and artists on the books to diamond distributors to the manufacturers, DC, Marvel, Image, everything else. So there's a lot of ground to cover, but I'll run through like just some comic book owners' kind of statements and stuff, and what the future looks like is what we'll discuss.
Yeah.
Oh Jesus. So, Rod Lombardi of Rodman Comics in Iowa, he said, "I went from thinking about giving myself a bonus to not paying myself. Now the worst case scenario has happened." Mike Sterling, who operates Sterling Silver Comics in Camarillo, California, said he saw an enormous surge of business just before a statewide shelter-in-place order went into effect. He said, "I don't know if people just wanted to build up a stockpile of comics to read at home, or there was a general sense of unease driving a need for escapism in regards to before the coronavirus." And then he had to shut his doors shortly after that. Diamond Distributors, the only distributor of comics anywhere, had to stop all shipments, and new releases were canceled in early April. Local comic book stores were forced to close. Some began to sell comic books curbside. Some went like on Instagram Live to show off books and sell them to viewers. Staffs were laid off. There's minimal help from the PPP, the Paycheck Protection Program. They didn't really give a lot of money for comic book stores. Artists and writers continued to work, but were sized down a lot. DC started to send their books direct to consumer ramping up digital sales as well. DC broke its exclusive distribution with Diamond to get new issues to shops that were open, adding a pair of new distributors. That move has been debated among shop owners. Some say they'd rather wait until Diamond restarts. DC didn't comment on that. Free Comic Book Day was canceled, which is a huge driver of sales annually for stores, bringing in an additional 1.2 million people a year. San Diego Comic-Con's been canceled. Con Season's been canceled, which are great events for local stores to make sales and create marketing opportunities. So what one person said, no, this is just something. So the dollars at stake are substantial. In recent years, sales of comics and graphic novels in the United States and Canada have topped $1 billion annually, with printed comics accounting for more than 1/3 of that. They say that digital sales contribute $100 million to the total. So that's 1/10 of the billion. So the other 9/10 right now we're out essentially. But there's hope. There's hope. So Mike Richardson, publisher and owner of Things from Another World comic book store, said there was Black September and the crash of the black and white comics in the 80s, the spectacular bust of the mid-90s, the dot-com bust of the early 2000s, 9/11, and the Great Recession of 2008. We made it through those events, and though this is far more serious, we'll make it through this one. Joe Field of Flying Colors Comics in Concord, close to us, California. He's actually the person who created Free Comic Book Day. He said, comic book retailers are the cockroaches of pop culture. We have been through all kinds of things that were meant to put us out of business, whether it's the new digital world or distribution upheaval or Disney buying Marvel. We have adapted and pivoted and remade our businesses in ways that are unique and survivable. Brian Michael Bendis, who's one of the greatest comic book writers in modern day, who used to work for Marvel and now works for DC, he said, when talking about what happened after 9/11, he said, I very specifically remember feeling and being told that we might be done totally, and then 3 weeks later, it all bounced back. I think something similar will happen here. We're going to figure out how to fix this and get back to work. There's some positivity there, but there's also some negativity. So from some small local shops, Chris Cassos is the only employee and manager of Seattle's Comics Dungeon. He said, while we are making money doing this, it's a fraction of what we were making week to week previously while we had the new books, because they are the blood flow of the store. We just can't overextend ourselves financially. John Harder, owner of Waterfront Comics in Susan City, California, said, he was unsuccessful in applying for the Paycheck Protection Program, loans through Small Business Association. He said, what I found out is I'm not really a small business. I'm a micro business. A lot of what we would think of as chain restaurants ended up getting the bulk of those loans, whereas the small Main Street stores with just a couple employees couldn't get much of anything. Dan Giarino, author of comic shop The Retail Mavericks, who gave us a new Greek culture, said, we're going to come out of this with fewer comic shops, but there will be enough that survive that this industry will continue. The question I'm asking is, how big will the culling be? Heidi McDonald said, I do think this is an extinction level event. It's life-changing for everyone. This is a whole industry that lived on very thin margins. There's no port to this storm. G. Willow Wilson, who helped create and wrote on a number of DC and Marvel books, she said that comics still rely on actual stores and communities that they provide. We are now deprived of those gathering places. The loss of that community has been really disruptive for people. So I think she's hopeful that we'll get back to that as well. In additional hope, a lot of writers and artists have rallied to support shops. Cami Garcia, Brian Michael Bendis, Gwenda Bond, Sam Humphries, and Phil Jimenez organized a 5-day Twitter campaign, which was #Creators for Comics. They launched with 150 creators auctioning art, comics, and experiences. By the time it was over, they had more than 600, including Frank Miller and Neil Gaiman. It raised more than $433,000. And so other people are saying, we're not just fighting for businesses and storefronts, we're fighting to support our communities. This other woman said, I could tell you my life story through the lens of comic book stores I've loved. I don't think any of us could cope with a world where comic book stores only lived in our hearts. We need them to live on in the real world too. So that's all the research I pulled for this. It seems like it's so decimating to so many people, but I do think the big shops will survive and local comic stores will reemerge eventually. But where are we at with
Yeah.
this?
Oh man, dude, that shit is like hard hearing all that shit.
Yeah.
Hold on, just give me a second.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Mm.
Yeah, man. Like when I was doing like research for all this, like I pulled up, like even when I researched it, there's like local news from like Napa Valley and stuff, like comic book stores closing their doors because like it's like not worth it for them because they don't have the money to support it. They're not getting help from the government. They laid off all their employees. Like it's like crazy, like everything that's happening in the comic book world. And of course, there's layers to it. Like if comic book stores, local comic book stores, can't order or can't get product from Diamond Distributions, then Diamond isn't making money. And if Diamond isn't making money, then they can't order from DC, Marvel, etc. So they're not making money. Like DC, Marvel, they'll be fine. They'll survive this. They always survive. But Diamond Distribution is the only distributor. So are we going to get new distributors? Like how will this change the future of comics and how stores function? Will stores survive? The majority maybe, but a lot of them will go out of business. A lot of people will lose their local comic book stores.
Yeah. So I think like first and foremost is just it's such like a tough pill to swallow, you know.
Yeah.
It's just it's like hard, like because like you always like hear about people going out of business and losing their livelihoods and stuff. So like when it hits, and I'm not saying any other section is less important in this world because everyone has their value and every business is an essential business in my opinion, and every person is an essential person. But like when it does hit a section of a community like our community, like the nerd culture, we're such and not like we're such like an inclusive yet tight knitted community that is like it's like truly heartbreaking, you know.
Yeah.
And just like I don't know, man. Like I just like think like where would our friendship be without Evolution Comics? You know, places like that, hole in the wall places where you go and like escape from life and stuff. And
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, like even thinking about like our friendship, you and me, like we wouldn't be as good of friends today if it wasn't for comic books and comic book stores and spending so much time at different shops. Like, we've been to so many different comic book stores and everything else, like all across the state. We've traveled to go to stores either to play Magic the Gathering or to look at comic books. Like we were comic book hunters for a while. We would go to a bunch of different stores and try to find rare issues and stuff. Like it's been a huge like it's something that like is a nostalgic thing because when I think about our friendship, I do think about a lot of different shops that we've been to. Even starting with like Cards and Comics, which is a local shop in Oak Grove. Like that's the first shop we ever went to together because we played Yu-Gi-Oh. But they also sold comics, So it's a big part of our friendship, and it's like our friendship isn't going to be destroyed by the lack of comic book stores in the future, but it's going to destroy the possibility for other people to build those strong bonds and friendship in the future.
And I just like think of like where I was in my life during that time, and like it really just really wasn't the best time of my life. I don't really talk about it too much, but it was like a time where I was just like really sad and depressed, and I hated life. I don't know, man.
Yeah, I mean, and there's a lot of people, who feel similarly, and like going to those stores and escape. Like even like the sad reality of this virus as well is a lot of there's been a spike of child abuse cases, and a lot of children who are victims of abuse from their parents or other people will also escape to comic book stores. Like,
Oh man, it's like hella hard trying to talk about this shit. I like hella choked up and
Yeah,
shit.
same. Ugh,
It's
shit.
like, think it's like, man, that's like, dude, I've gotten to points where it's like, oh no, man, I feel like I've gotten to points where it's like, I don't even like want to live anymore, dude. And like being in those places, those friends, I feel like really saved my life, you know?
Yeah.
So it's like thinking about like, you know, it's like your big name stores will make it through, you know? I've got like the Franken Castles or whatever it's called, like in Southern California. They'll make
Yeah.
it through. People
Midtown
who
in New
really,
York.
yeah, like people who really thrive online, they'll make it through, you know? And surprisingly, even like one of our latest home stores, I would call it, even though like we really didn't go there too much anymore and stuff like that, but like Card Shack and stuff, dude, I'm hella happy he made it through, dude.
Yeah.
Hella happy. I think he posted like on Facebook that he's reopening his doors like this week, bro, and I was like so happy. So like if you guys are in the Sacramento area, make sure, and you guys are into nerd culture and you guys like playing card games or comic books and stuff, and you know you have the financial means to do so. Obviously, you know a lot of people are in some really financial tough times at the moment, so not everybody can do it. But if you can, support your local businesses because it means more right now than it ever has before.
Right.
And like especially to our sector of the world, you know, our community, the nerd culture, I think like we really got to band together. So it's like if you live in the Sacramento area and you play like card games, like I think pretty much like any card game there is.
Yeah.
You know, Yu-Gi-Oh, Pokemon, Magic the Gathering stuff. Make sure you
Vanguard, all
guys
that
go
shit.
and visit. Yeah, Vanguard, other stuff like that. Make sure you guys go visit Card Shack. They're located off Freeport Boulevard.
Yeah, competitive card shack.
Competitive Card Shack. You know, but yeah, it's like down the street from Sacramento City College, and like literally a block away from like Land Park and stuff. So really not hard to find. Yeah, make sure you guys are supporting your local businesses, man.
Yeah. And
So I mean, so okay, to get through like some of the comments, that I mean, because you read out like
yeah.
a lot of them.
Yep.
So I mean, I mean, a lot of them, like you know, you pretty much already understand a lot of that, but it's like some of the descriptive ones was like, you know, we're trying to weather the storm, but there's no port in sight or whatever. I was like, oh fuck, dude. That was like, I feel like such a very good way to explain it, and like such an intense way to explain it, and really just like set it into perspective for me.
Yeah.
And it's just like, oh no, man, my heart goes out to like people, like you know, this industry, man. It's not an easy one though. There's so much competition everywhere, so it's like if you're able to like make it past like those first couple of years, bro, without having to shut your doors, like you damn near made it. You know what I mean? Like, so it's like people have been there for a long time, bro. It really fucking is, man. And like, I don't want to fucking like, even if I don't like it, their livelihood and like have to go out of business and stuff like that, and it's just like.
Yeah.
Like part of our culture is like discipline, like you know, and vaccine. So this is where I would say we're going with it, right? So I think eventually we'll get our mom and pop shop back. You know, they'll pop up, and you know, if you've ever, I don't want to be like that, but like if you've ever had an interest in building your own shop, but you're too scared because there's too much competition, that might be a good time once the economy opens back up.
Yeah.
Get a business loan, just I can do it, man.
Yeah. And
but I mean, shit. Where we go from here, though, Oh man, dude, it's going to be a different reality that we live in the white culture, man. I don't think there's going to be cons for a very long time, dude. And it's going to suck, man, because like a lot of there's so many sub compartments of this nerd culture we've built, and one of them is cosplayers. And that's a lot of times, dude, those cosplayers, that's literally that's what they have in their life and stuff,
Yeah.
is cosplaying, dude. And like it's such a fantastic expression of art, dude. It really is, and I really enjoy seeing people's cosplays. And it's just like they're gonna have to survive and live online pretty much.
Right.
And it sucks because like I think until there's a vaccine for COVID, I bet your bottom dollar, bro. There's not gonna be a fucking con anytime in the near future. I would say I wouldn't bet on there being a con, dude, for like the next 2 years, bro.
Right.
At least minimum, dude, minimum. And that's just to make sure that like not only is the infection and death rate down, but like the success rate of the vaccine, dude. Because like it takes a long time to gather that data, whether or not the vaccine is actually working and stuff. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So with that, it's just going to be such a long time before we get back, to how life used to be and stuff like that. And you just really think about it, man. It's just you get tired of thinking, and you just be grateful for the things that you do have in your life because if this COVID-19 has showed you anything, man, in a blink of an eye, it can all be gone. And it could be the most silliest, random thing that you take for granted, and you don't even realize you're taking it for granted. Just appreciate the things that you do have, man.
Right.
Seriously.
Yeah.
Honestly, bro, I thought like you were gonna usually be the one that was getting choked up, and I was like thinking about it, bro, and I was like.
Yeah.
As I'm like trying to say it, dude, like I can't even like get the words out of my throat and shit, dude. And I was just like tearing up and shit.
Yeah. I started to like after, but yeah, I mean, and the thing is too is like if the stores that are currently out there like can get through this, I think they'll be okay. The issue is that a lot of people don't open comic book stores because they want to make a lot of money because you won't. They open comic book stores because they love comic books and they love the culture. Like that's why they do it. Like people are never gonna like be super super rich in general off of opening a comic book store. Like it just doesn't happen. So
yeah, you gotta have a certain type of business model, man. And most comic book stores don't. And I think one quote said that we thrive on thin margins,
Yeah.
And that's right, bro. It's not a thing where you're gonna expect to get rich off of it, You might live comfortable type thing, but you're not gonna, make a ton of money. I think very few stores can do that. I don't think there's one in Sacramento. There was one in Sacramento. I won't go into the details of everything that happened, but just due to unfortunate circumstances, Metropolis Comics had to close their doors. I think they were one of the ones that could have formed into a large scale business.
Yeah, probably.
I just think that that's the trajectory that they were headed, and I just think some unfortunate circumstances happened, and they closed their doors a couple of years back, and that was that pretty much, But
Right.
it's kind of rare, bro. I mean, you have the one in SoCal. I think there's like one really big one in Seattle, and I know there's like a couple really big ones in New York.
Yeah.
Obviously, New York's like the hub. Like all comic books are based off of New York City.
Right. Yeah.
So of course they're gonna be big there.
There are some big ones. Yeah, like the comic book industry in Seattle is really big too. So like there's a whole article I saw just based on the effect on comic book sales in the Pacific Northwest, like centering around Seattle. So yeah, it's really like it's one of those things that like it sucks because a lot of people are not getting the help they need from the government. To stay afloat, and if they don't have the money saved, they're gonna go out of business because they're not making money.
It's just like such bullshit, dude. It's just like the fucking The relief bill and shit, dude, was just such a load of shit, man. Like they didn't. I mean, yeah, dude, they did like one round of like $1,200 for most Americans, and I was in that group of Americans. I received a check, and it definitely helped and stuff. But it's just like it wasn't close to being enough, dude. Let me tell you that, dude. And there's, I was fortunate enough that I was able to work through this entire pandemic and stuff. So I was very fortunate. But like, not a whole lot of people are that fortunate. Obviously, talking about this topic, people, we mentioned it earlier, man, everyone's losing their livelihoods, dude, losing their houses, more, it's just so much more, and the government could have done so much more. And I just think it's such bullshit that they didn't, dude. And like, you really think about it, and you really gotta think now, guys, and we're not really into politics, dude, on this podcast, but I really feel like I need to say something about it. This really, really makes you think who you vote into office, like not just president level, but, Congress, Senate, your local elections and stuff. It matters, dude. It really does. And this is why it matters.
Right. Well, especially with this is
for everyone that just sits there, and I used to be one of those people. I will fucking raise my hand like, my vote don't matter. It fucking matters, dude. And I've changed my direction of thinking over the course of like the past 4 years. I voted a lot more and stuff. And your vote matters, dude, and this is why it matters, because corrupt officials, dude, steal from us. And our section of the community is a direct correlation and proof of it, dude. It's such bullshit, dude, that we didn't get fucking, or I say we as a whole, the community, comic book shops, that's what I'm referring to when I say we, in case anybody gets lost or confused. It's just bullshit, dude, that they didn't get the proper financial backing through the government, because obviously it's proven that they can fucking pull this money out of their fucking asses, and you know what I mean? Like it's amazing. Like the government always says, "Oh, we're broke. We don't have any money. We can't fix this road. We don't have enough money for that. We can't do X, Y, or Z because we don't have the money for it." Right? All of a sudden, this comes along. Where did all this money come from? That's what I want to know. And I want to know why it was only chain restaurants that got it, the big businesses that received it. I just think it's such bullshit, dude. I'm not pretending to know every little nuance of everything that goes into it. I'm looking at it from a very broad perspective, so I will say that.
Yeah.
But it's so aggravating to me. Like, finding these things out, I'm just like, what? Why did they get money? I don't understand. Like, you guys fucking sat there and wrote bills to help businesses out. Did you not? Why were these businesses not bailed out?
Yeah.
And why are they having to close their doors when they shouldn't have to? It's just, if I can urge anybody to learn a lesson from this pandemic, two things. Appreciate the shit you got, because you don't know when it's going to be gone. Whether that be material items, people, a way of living, you don't know when it's going to be gone.
Right.
And fucking vote your ass off.
Yeah.
Because it all fucking matters, dude.
Yeah, I mean,
it all fucking matters, and that's like, I'm getting like enraged just thinking about it, dude.
Yeah, the more like I think about this topic, it's just like I don't want to just talk into space, because people are so far in their corners when it comes to this, and like they'll listen to their experts and ignore all the other experts that disagree.
No, that's totally fine. I'm not worried about any of that. And if I can sway one or two people, if I can sway one person who didn't care about voting before, and I give them a different perspective to show them why their vote actually does matter, I accomplished my goal.
Yeah,
that's all I care about.
Especially in this case, because this is mostly a state and local government thing. This is governors deciding for their states and working with local leaders to decide how to go about this. as far as the federal government role, I mean, they haven't done a great job supporting states, but they're not the ones making the overall rules. They're not shutting down the country. This is that's why what Scott's saying is true. It's not just the federal government. It's not just the president. You need to vote for your state electives, your governors.
Newsom is a fucking joke, dude.
No, well, Newsom has actually done a fairly good job, but he's doing this is the thing. This is what bureaucracy is. Governments do what people want, what the majority of people want, because if they don't, they will not be reelected. And the sad reality is, every survey, every poll that I've read shows that 2/3 to 3/4 of this country think that we should be shut down longer, do not want to go back to work. They want us to stay shut down because they think it will save lives. And I will just end with this. Living is not just breathing. We are not living right now. Really. We're just breathing. We're just, going along. We don't living life is hanging out with your friends, is enjoying meals with your friends, going out to eat, socializing, shopping. Like, what we're doing right now is just breathing.
Exactly. We're not living. Most people are living. It's going to work. It's making new connections in life, having new experiences in life, whether that be shopping, whether that be going out on a meal that you never gone to it before, and you're trying something new, or you're going to places, exploring some place you've never been to, and behold you the most beautiful mountain range that you've ever seen in your life, and it changes your entire perspective on life. We are not living right now, dude.
Yeah, but we're being
exactly
told
what you said.
We're being told that we're saving lives by staying in and not living our lives. We're saving.
I don't think we are, dude. I don't know, man. Like, I don't want to go too far into it, dude. But I really don't feel like. I don't feel like we are, man. I think we're causing far more damage than we are.
Right.
I think we're costing more life in the long run, bro. More people are going to be depressed, dude. There's been a severe spike in suicide. There's been a huge spike in child abuse cases. There's been a huge spike in domestic violence cases, and yet we're saving. How are we saving lives?
Yeah, all I'm gonna say
because let me tell you, most cases get found out when it comes to child abuse and domestic violence abuse is because people say things when they're not at home. By the way, is that one kid that had a friend or had a teacher that spotted a bruise on their arm or a coworker that, said the same thing and talked them into calling the police or whatever have you. Whatever the situation is, dude. We're not saving lives, dude.
Right.
That's a coward facade, dude.
And
people...
Go ahead, sorry.
So loud. I'm thinking about it.
There are so many unforeseen... There are so many unforeseen consequences of this that people have no idea about because they live in their boxes and think about how it's affecting them and not affecting the majority of people. And the biggest issue I have is be honest with yourself and listen to what Dr. Fauci and Dr. Birx and the leader of the health department in Chicago tell you about how they are counting deaths. Listen to it. They are blatantly telling you how they are lying about the death rate. And this is not a conspiracy theory. They tell you straight out, if you are on hospice, and if you guys don't know this, I've known people on hospice, you only get put on hospice when you are going to die in a couple of days or a couple of weeks.
Yeah, when you're at the end of your life anyways.
Yeah, they told you, the leader of the health department in Chicago and Illinois said, if you are on hospice and you also have COVID and you die of a clear alternate cause, you are marked as a COVID death. Colorado is kind of working against us right now. They had a man die because he had a 0.55 alcohol, 7 times the legal limit of blood alcohol content. And he died clearly of alcohol poisoning. The coroner said so. The State Department came in and said he died of COVID because he had it when he died. He clearly died of alcohol poisoning. Because of that instance, they redid all their death count, and it went down by 25%. Because people are dying of other things, but they have COVID, so they're marking them as COVID deaths.
Exactly.
I'm sorry, guys.
What you just think that fucking randomly one of the leading causes in fucking the United States being a heart attack randomly just fucking goes down?
Yeah.
No.
Read the article.
People did not magically just start getting in shape. People do not just randomly stop having heart disease. People do not randomly stop having strokes. People do not randomly stop having diabetes and things like that. And it's mind-boggling. But people really fear dying from COVID. I don't fear it. I don't. I go to work every single day with the chance of actually contracting COVID-19. And let me tell you why. So, when somebody orders something off of Amazon, pretty much it gets ordered from the company, and it goes to Amazon to one of their distribution centers where it's pretty much sorted through, and then it's shipped to a sorting facility, which is like what we have in like near the airport. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
And then from there, a big rig drives it to which is called the last mile facility, which is my facility, where then yet again is sorted again by people, not machines, people, into different like little bags and stuff, and then we come and get them. Wait. They're sorted into different bags the night before, and then that morning when I go to load up my van, they then again touch my shit and put them on a cart for me, and then I grab the cart, load up my van, and then I deliver them to residents' houses. I have to ring doorbells. I have to sit there and enter foreign like facilities. I have to put door handles, do all kinds of shit, dude. Do I fear for my life or fear COVID at all? No, I don't. I just don't. I'm of the opinion that I really believe this shit was way overblown. I feel like, especially once I found out that they're lying about the COVID death. And if you believe that COVID is like the worst thing since the Spanish flu, that's okay. You can have your own opinion.
Yeah.
Welcome to America.
Right, and where I fall on this is really that they're telling us we all have to behave a certain way to prevent people from dying, whereas I like freedom. I'm sorry, I like freedom, and I believe that if you are afraid, you should stay in, and other people should be able to make their own choices. And
exactly. You know what's funny? It proves that people are not actually scared of COVID. You know how I know this? Today, right? Because Sacramento, where we live, just got a new order that many of the restrictions were pretty much lifted. Today, for the first time in a month and a half, 2 months, right? Since all the restrictions were put in place.
yeah.
Went into the store today to go get me and my girlfriend some lunch. The deli section, order some sandwiches because Safeway sandwiches are like the greatest thing ever. And anyways, I look around. I'm looking at the workers. They're all masked up. No surprise. I'm looking around again, and I notice only a hand of, and this store is packed, bro. There's so many people walking around, right? Only a handful of people are actually wearing masks, dude. It's like amazing that it's like, it shows you that most people really aren't as scared as everyone's like making it out to be. You know what I mean?
Right. Well,
I just feel like it's at its best. It was fear mongering by the media.
Well, yeah, I mean, and the thing is, like, if I don't have to wear a mask, I won't, because masks are fucking disgusting. I hate it. Like, you're breathing your own air back into your body, your own CO2. Like, it's just disgusting in general. I hate wearing masks. So if I don't have to, I won't. Like, dude, trust me. Like, I'm a disgusting bastard. You don't want to know the shit I put in my mouth. But I fucking hate wearing that mask. Like, to me, that is way more disgusting than anything else I put in my mouth, and that's saying something. And even for you, like, you're talking about all the stuff like your coworkers are touching and stuff, and people might be afraid hearing that because we've been told that it can live on surfaces for days and weeks and all this shit. And then yesterday the CDC says, oh, by the way, guys, yeah, that's not the case. It just travels person to person, and the likelihood of getting it from a surface is very, very unlikely. So now you're telling us the complete opposite of what you've been saying.
I don't think, like, science is ever evolving, and I don't think that they know what is actually causing it. And I don't think it's an actual big deal.
No, yes, of course.
It's spread like wildfire. Yeah, a lot of people have it. But I think I heard, like, on the news, like, some 80% of people never even have symptoms.
Right. Well, the thing is, we're left with two options. One is wait for a vaccine, which who knows if we'll ever have a vaccine. And two is try to get herd immunity. And you can't have herd immunity if everybody's staying in their fucking houses. We're at 20% right now. 1 in 5 people approximately in the United States is getting diagnosed with coronavirus. You need to be at 70% in order to create a herd immunity. And we'll never get there if people are so scared. There are people that are really scared, and they don't care that masks really don't do anything, that social distancing really doesn't do anything. They just want to feel comfortable. They don't care if it works or not. They want to feel safe.
Right.
And I'm sorry, if you want to feel that safe, just stay inside. Don't go out. Order things online. Like, I don't get it, but yeah, I know I'm an idiot according to most people right now. People are gonna think we're idiots talking the way we're talking, because we need to save lives, and by going out we're murderers, and by not wanting to wear masks we're killing people, because like the governor of New York said, this virus is death. Even though that's not really true. Despite the fact that we have multiple media reports about how they're counting deaths, multiple media reports about how if one person tests positive, they count everybody in your family, even if they haven't been tested, as positive, as a case. So
even if it's not true. I just think it's like amazing, though. It's just like, it's so crazy, dude. Like, and like I said, dude, I feel like I can have my own opinion, and I am right in feeling the way I feel. And you can have a completely different opinion, and you can still be right.
Yeah.
Oh my God, dude. Oh, I know. Out of the box thinking, right?
Yeah. And the rub is just the rub for me is when we make public policy on things that aren't true, which is the issue. Yeah. But at the end of the day, the people do decide, and the majority of people believe that this is such a big deal that we need to stay in. So, hey, I'm a big supporter of states' rights, and so it'd be hypocritical of me to say that, like, we should defy all this stuff and, like, the states are wrong. Like, but at the end of the day, we're destroying everybody's lives. We're not really living. We're destroying lives every day that aren't deaths of COVID. We're destroying regular people's lives.
I talk to my girlfriend about it all the time. Like I understand, like, 'cause she's one of the people. She's like in the middle. She's scared of it, right? But she doesn't want to just sit there and like put her life on hold either, Right. Where I'm like, I'm not scared of it, but I don't want to put my life on hold.
Yeah.
Like, I'm just like whatever about it, dude.
Right. Yeah.
I feel like if I'm unlucky enough to catch it and die from it, then I was just unlucky, dude.
Right.
And there was probably some underlying condition I probably had that I don't know. Because most times, you don't just randomly wake up one day, bam, you have heart disease, bam, you have fucking lung disease, bam, you have COPD or whatever it is that you have. You've had that for a while, but the symptoms weren't severe enough for you to notice. You know what I mean? It was just like, is this one of those things? Okay, I got a month and I got it and I died from it. Like, doesn't mean everyone else should be so scared because it's just like, dude, even like the infection rate is like so minuscule that it's just like, it's crazy, dude.
Yeah, the problem the problem is people are going to tell you that it's not just you, that you might get it and not die, but you're going to give it to other people who will die, which...
That's not even true, though. Dude, because it's like, you think about it, and it's like, dude, when I say the infection rate is minuscule, the death rate is like microcosm fucking small, dude. It's like
Yeah.
fucking so just.
Yeah.
It's so small, dude. It's not even like a 1%. I don't think, dude. Like, what the fuck are you guys talking about? I'm just like, nah, the Spanish flu, that was fucking scary, dude.
Right.
You fucking see those numbers and you're like, holy fuck.
Yeah. I mean,
Holy shit.
like, even it's like difficult
But now
because
it's just like, dude, technology is so advanced and fucking medicine is so advanced now compared to 100 years ago when the Spanish flu happened.
right.
But it's just like, this is such a non-factor to me, dude. It's just like, I know it's not the actual flu, you know, it's just like, when this first came out, everybody kept using the phrase, it's just like the flu. But in my mind, it is just like the flu. I'm just like, okay, if I get it, whatever, I probably won't even have symptoms. And if I do have symptoms, I probably won't die from it.
Yeah, it's one of those things that it's like,
But
the argument doesn't work.
Like you said, people probably listen to this podcast and be like, dude, you're such a fucking idiot. You're a part of the problem. You're such an asshole. You fucking deserve to go die and all this shit. People fucking probably say all this shit about it.
It's true. It's true because I've spent a fair share of time reading through comments on Twitter and Facebook, and I never respond to anybody. I never post anything because I don't want to argue with people. But like, there was one about like somebody from went into Costco, didn't want to wear a mask and he kicked out, and like everyone was like, yeah, he should. He's putting people's lives in danger and everything. And then one person I saw said, well, some people can't wear masks because they have medical conditions. And people are like, well, if it's that serious, they shouldn't be out anyway because they're more likely to die, and they must be made up medical condition stuff. And do people not realize that people actually have claustrophobia, and when they wear masks, have panic attacks? Like that is a legitimate medical condition that does not weaken your fucking immune system. Like, people live so much in their own fucking box that they can't see outside of it. Oh, you need to wear a mask because you're saving a fucking life. Shut the fuck up.
It's so funny, dude. It's true, though, man. I mean, it's true, bro. What more can I say? It's true. It's crazy. Like, some people truly are at risk of getting it and dying from it. Like my grandma, she would be at risk. She has lung issues. She has COPD. You know what I mean? So I fucking sit there and I've had arguments and fights and had to yell at her because she wants to get out of the house, and I totally fucking understand that, dude. She's elderly. She don't get out much as is, and then being restricted to not going out at all, it sucks. But I'm trying to make the right decision for her.
Yeah, but I also believe in this country,
those are so marginal cases, bro. Those are so marginal,
Right. Not like, yeah, in this country, if you know the risks and you decide to put yourself at risk, you should be able to. That's what freedom is. Like, that's just how, like, if you have the flu and you go out, you could potentially give to someone and they can die. That's the reality of our world. If you go, even if you have nothing, you just go behind the wheel of a car, you could kill somebody and you're not meaning to. This is the reality. We act like people have never died before in the history of the world. Like, it happens. It's a human condition. People fucking die of a lot of things, but we don't destroy everyone else's lives because of it.
Exactly.
Anyway, this is very irritating to continue to talk about. Anyway, hey, thanks for joining us on our political podcast, guys.
Yeah, right. And hey, man, it's not just a political issue anymore, man. It's into all facets of life, man, and it's okay to talk about.
Yeah.
Things like this on a nerd podcast when it pertains to it.
Yeah,
did we go a little off the rails at the end? Yeah, probably. But you guys enjoyed the show and you know it.
Yeah, and if you guys disagree with us and you do think we're idiots and you hate us or whatever, like I don't really, it doesn't bother me. Like I think my fiance and I disagree on this topic. We don't talk about it a whole lot, but I think we do disagree. But I still love her. Like I don't hate her because we disagree. Like, this is life. People disagree on things. So it is what it is. Even you and I on a lot of things, we're very passionate about nerd shit or everything else. We have heated arguments, but we still love each other. Like, we're still friends. Like, it's okay. It's okay to disagree.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think we're gonna wrap up here, guys. Thanks for joining us. Thanks for tuning in. Make sure you share this podcast with your family and friends. Let them know that we're awesome. And yeah. Thanks for tuning in. Check us out on social media at Nerdy Boys Reviews. Check out Scott's personal Twitter, Captain Hot Sauce CPT_Hot Sauce. You can follow me if you want, Nerdy Boy Inhuman. Thank you guys. We love you. We are your hosts. I'm Nerdy Boy Christian.
And I'm Nerdy Boy Scat.
And as always, we have one message for you, and that is stay nerdy, boys.
Stay nerdy, boys.
Do do do.